Good evening to you. Delegation of financial powers rules. In the last class, we saw what is supernumerary posts. Now, deemed abolition and revival of posts. Suppose a post is lying vacant for a specific number of years, then there is lying vacant for a specific number of years. It will be treated as abolished. Then you will have to write for revival of the post without the permission. The post cannot be filled up. All posts except newly created posts kept in abeyance or remaining vacant for a period of more than 2 years in a ministry, department, attached office, subordinate office, or a startup body would be considered as deemed abolished unless an exemption is given at the time of sanctioning the post. Sanction, post sanction करने के समय ही, if such an exemption is given, that even if it lies vacant for more than 3 years, 2 years, 5 years, it will not be treated as deemed abolished. The general rule will apply. A post falling into the category of deemed abolished cannot be filled up prior to obtaining a revival from Department of Expenditure. Suppose those all full fill up nahi hua hai, then it is treated as abolished. Then if you want to fill up that post thereafter, it's not possible unless you get it cleared by the Department of Expenditure. Statutory posts remaining vacant for a period of statutory post means statutory body means a body which is created through a statute, through a law. In that law, it is mentioned that the head of that statutory institution, these general conditions of deemed abolished, that will not be applicable. But this is not applicable to all other posts in the statutory bodies. Newly created posts sanctioned by Department of Expenditure or Cabinet, which do not have recruitment rules, would fall under the category of deemed abolished after a period of 3 years. This relaxation will not be available to posts which have existing recruitment rules. किसी कारण से administrative reasons, some posts are very much available. उसमें appointment होता है, promotion, demotion, सब कुछ होता है, लेकिन there is no recruitment rule. So, in such cases, if such a post is lying vacant for a period of 3 years, then it will be deemed abolished. Revival of posts would be considered in rare and unavoidable circumstances only. That means those all that to fill up nahi kiya, then we let it go like that. So suppose you want to fill up another post, then you have to make out a case to the Department of Expenditure for revival. Then only you can take initiative to fill up the post. Proposals for revival of posts may be referred to Ministry of Finance on file along with the prescribed checklist on Excel 2. Okay. Proposal for revival of posts may be referred to Ministry of Finance on file along with prescribed checklist. इसका एक प्रोसीजर, प्रॉपर प्रोसीजर है, चेकलिस्ट है, in the form of annexure to that delegation of financial powers also. So you have to make a proper proposal, get it cleared, and then only revival can be, that is, that post can be filled up. Abolition. All ministries, departments may submit to the Ministry of Finance within 3 months an action taken report regarding abolition of posts which are vacant for more than 5 years in the ministry, department, organization under their control. Further, while referring any proposal for creation or revival of posts, they may enclose a certificate that all posts vacant for more than 5 years on that date referring the date on the date of referring the proposal have been abolished. अगर कोई पोस्ट 2 साल के लिए vacant रहता है, then that is treated as deemed abolished. Suppose the same post is vacant for the past 5 years, then it is deemed abolished. Then suppose you want to create a post or try to get it revived, then you will have to give you want to fill up that post, or you want a creation of a new post. Then you will have to give a certificate that the post which was lying for 5 years, that has been abolished. Continuation of post. You create a temporary post, it is created for a temporary period. Then later on, if you want to get extension, that is continuation of post. Competent authority for continuation of post is as follows. JS and below level, Department of Expenditure. That is, originally it was created for 1 year and you want extension, continuation for another year. Then the proposal should go like this. Department of Expenditure is the competent authority. Above Joint Secretary level, Committee of Secretaries, who are all there? That is Secretary, Department of Expenditure, Secretary, DOPT, and Cabinet Secretary. That is the committee. Then Secretary level posts. For that, the Committee of Secretaries as above, plus after approval by the Committee of Secretaries, the ministry should take up with the Prime Minister for approval. If it is above Joint Secretary level, Joint Secretary, Additional Secretary, Special Secretary, Committee of Secretary will do approval by the Committee of Secretary. That Committee of Secretary is the competent authority. In case you are creating or you are asking for continuation of a post of the level of secretary, then you have to get the approval of Committee of Secretaries. Thereafter, you should get it done by the Prime Minister. Transfer of posts. A post sanctioned for a specific purpose in an organization may not be diverted for any other purpose, at the same or different station. Transfer amounts to creation of a new post with the simultaneous abolition of existing post. Hence, approval of Department of Expenditure is required. What is transfer of post? CBI में हमेशा होता है. You get a case on the direction of central government with the consent of the state government. A case is transferred to CBI. Likewise, on the basis of an order or direction from a court of law, a case is entrusted to CBI. So once a new case has come, CBI goes up with a proposal to the Department of Expenditure for creation of the posts of different category. One joint director, one deputy director, deputy secretary, or many DIGs and so on, inspector, DSP वगैरह. One unit, एक नया unit बनता है to deal with that case. Once that work is over, case is filed in the court, you require only that chief investigating officer who may be an inspector of police or DSP. उनको और एक सपोर्टिंग स्टाफ दो तीन क्लरिकल स्टाफ रख के सारा वापस करना चाहिए. नहीं होता है सीबीआई में, ऐसा नहीं होता है. दे in between they may get a new case, one case or two cases. They will write to the Ministry of Finance, Department of Expenditure, that a new case has come. So we are diverting these staff and officers to that unit. वो गलत है, लेकिन it is being done. What is the right course is, first you have to write for abolition of the post. जो पुराना एक यूनिट को आप वो उस पोस्ट को आप रिटेन करना चाहते हैं, so you ask for abolition of the post, simultaneously you ask for creation of such post. दोनों अलग अलग proposal है. You get it abolished, then ask for simultaneous creation of this post. I say just you cannot transfer the post already sanctioned for some other purpose. Abolition of post. A subordinate authority may sanction the abolition of post which it is competent to create. जिस अथॉरिटी के पास पावर है ये पोस्ट क्रिएट करने के लिए, that is the competent authority to abolish such post. Then there are many schedules. 7 schedules are there. Schedules, powers of subordinate authorities. Department or administrators and heads of departments shall, in relation to creation of permanent posts, suppose we need to create permanent posts, then there is a schedule in Schedule 2. Then for creation of temporary posts, Schedule 3. Appropriation and reappropriation, Schedule 4. Incurring contingent expenditure, Schedule 5. Incurring of miscellaneous expenditure, 6. And write-off of losses, Schedule 7. So you will have to follow these schedules for these purposes. No power under this sub-rule shall be redelegated in respect of creation of post का power किसी के पास है. Suppose it is there with the head of the department or the Department of Expenditure in Finance Ministry. That cannot be redelegated further. Write-off of losses. If the power is with the head of the department, that cannot be delegated to subordinate officers. Reappropriation of funds exceeding 10% of the original budget provision. अगर 10% से ज्यादा budget allocation में फंड को किसी और हेड में ट्रांसफर करना है रीअप्रोप्रिएट करने के लिए, that is not permissible through delegation of financial powers. Head of the department may, by an order in writing, authorize a gazetted officer serving under him to exercise all or any of the powers conferred on such authority. अपने पास जो भी power delegate किया हुआ है, that authority may further delegate those powers to his subordinates. The power delegated under these rules can also be exercised for validation of an action already taken. एक action पहले ही ले लिया गया है, उसको validate करने के लिए this delegated power could be used. Or expenditure or liability already incurred, even when the authority validating now had not been competent to do so at the time the expenditure. पहले एक expenditure हो गया, उस समय this authority who spent that amount, now he has come on promotion, he has got a power to do that. He can regularize, though when the actual expenditure was incurred, he was not competent. But because of the promoted post now he is holding, he can authenticate that. Government of India decision. Power should not be delegated under the DFPR to non-gazetted officers. DFPR में जो भी powers delegate किया हुआ है, specify किया हुआ है, they cannot be redelegated to non-gazetted officers. Further delegation of powers. इसका मतलब क्या है? Actually, what we speak of delegation of powers in these rules, that is floor level. That is the general delegation of powers to different levels. It doesn't mean the power should be exercised only by that authority. It can be further re-delegated to his subordinate officers. They should be gazetted, that's all. Specific powers delegated to heads of department and heads of office are only the floor level delegations, and the ministries could make good the additional requirements at subordinate level by further re-delegation. जो delegation of financial powers rules indicate करता है, उसको further delegate करने का power है, अधिकार है. In order to derive the benefit of these delegations optimally, the ministry should not only make full use of the delegated powers, but also further re-delegate powers to their subordinate organizations to match the latest requirements. In any case, a complete review, delegation of powers, further delegation भी हो सकता है, सब कुछ ठीक है. लेकिन delegated, once delegated, always it should remain delegated. ऐसा नहीं है. Every 3 years, that delegation should be delegation and further delegation should be reviewed. Post facto sanction. क्या होता है? That is, you spend money because of the urgency without proper sanction. ऐसा draw करके you spent money. Later on, that has to be ratified. So that is called the ex post facto sanction. Ministries, departments may make payments in implementation of court orders in cases where the Supreme Court has passed final orders in a matter and all avenues of appeal and review have been exhausted. In all such cases, the ministry department would obtain post facto sanction from the concerned nodal ministries. कभी ऐसा court order के मुताबिक to implement court order, otherwise there may be contempt. इसलिए कोई urgently खर्च करना होता है ये without waiting for any sanction, the authority they spend money. Later on, that has to be regularized. Expenditure पहले हो चुका है. Their compulsion was court order. In such cases, post facto sanction should be issued. खर्च पहले बाद में to ratification. In all such cases, the ministry department would obtain these powers, however, should not be exercised in respect of areas where powers vest with the cabinet, such as revision of new pay scales and creation of non-planned posts of and above joint secretary level and planned posts above additional secretary level. In all such cases, the administrative ministry should necessarily consult the nodal department, that is DOPT, and or Department of Expenditure. ये ऐसा कोर्ट ऑर्डर को इंप्लीमेंट करने के लिए you can spend money, later on you can ask for post facto sanction. That is a general rule. But there are certain cases where the power to spend money lies with the cabinet. जैसे पे कमीशन रिपोर्ट आया, उसमें इंप्लीमेंटेशन के लिए कैबिनेट का अप्रूवल चाहिए. उस केस में even if there is a court order, you cannot spend money and then ask for post facto sanction. When the power is vested with any other subordinate authority lower in rank than the cabinet, then that is possible. But if the power is with the cabinet itself, then you cannot spend money first and then ask for post facto sanction. A comment question. Finding that there was no gazetted officer available, the competent authority delegates financial powers to the senior most and experienced ASO in his office. ऐसा एक अर्जेंसी था, कोई और नहीं था. No, there was no गेस्टेड ऑफिसर अवेलेबल. सो डेलीगेट करना जरूरी था. सो एन एक्सपीरियंस्ड असिस्टेंट सेक्शन ऑफिसर वाज अवेलेबल. सो उनका नाम पर ये डेलीगेट पावर डेलीगेट किया गया. क्या हुआ? Whether it is correct or not, answer. There is a prohibition in the DAPR, Government of India decision under Rule 13, that the financial powers should not be delegated under delegation of financial powers rules to non-gazetted officers. Hence, the action of the higher authority is not in order. वो नहीं कर सकते. Insurance of government property. Government property, both movable and immovable, shall not be insured. Basic rule is that no expenditure can be spent, incurred on insurance of government property, whether it is movable or immovable. No subordinate authority shall incur any liability or expenditure in connection with such insurance without the previous consent of the Ministry of Finance, with the following exceptions. So I saw, without the approval of Ministry of Finance, no such expenditure on insurance can be incurred. There are a couple of exceptions. One, departments shall be competent to incur expenditure on insurance of material or equipment received on loan, aid from foreign governments or international or other organizations, if this is a condition in the contract. Suppose there is a mission, there is a missionary that relates to cancer treatment. That is a scientific equipment. That sophisticated equipment is donated by Norwegian government, India, one of the government hospitals, All India Medical Institute. तो उसको रिसीव करने के लिए कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एंटर करते हैं दोनों गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया एंड गवर्नमेंट ऑफ नॉर्वे. उसमें एक कंडीशन है, इंश्योरेंस करना जरूरी है. हम लोग इसको उठाकर शिप में रख देंगे, देन इंश्योरेंस शुड बी योर लुकआउट. इन सच केस it is exempted. You can spend money. Number 2, departments shall be competent to incur additional expenditure in such cases where, for booking of goods by rail or road, an enhanced risk rate in the nature of insurance is prohibited. ये एक ऐसा है, सरकारी goods को वो एक जगह से दूसरा जगह ट्रांसपोर्ट करते हैं by train. There is a slight variation in the price tariff. If you pay some 200 rupees more, lakh worth of property will be insured. Higher rate of premium. That should be available. That should be available. Note, in cases where it is decided to insure property, it should be done through government insurance, nationalized insurance. In relaxation of Rule 15, it has been decided that departments may incur expenditure on insurance not exceeding 20,000 in each case of all costly, extremely delicate, highly sensitive or sophisticated equipments of fragile nature purchased from abroad and not easily replaceable, and for which insurance is considered absolutely necessary. Normal rule is there should be no expenditure incurred on insurance of government properties. That is the general rule. Some exceptions were also given. In relaxation of Rule 15, a insurance related rule 15, in relaxation of that rule, you can spend 20,000 rupees on insurance. वो कैसा है, किस मामले पर? There are so many adjectives. There are so many adjectives. On fulfillment of all these conditions, you can spend. In each case of all costly, extremely delicate, highly sensitive, sophisticated equipments of fragile nature purchased from abroad and not easily replaceable, and for which insurance is considered compulsory. ऐसा केस में you can insure and the insurance premium expenditure should not exceed 20,000 rupees. Motor vehicles owned by central government which are used for purposes not connected with any commercial enterprise are exempt from compulsory insurance against third-party risk by virtue of Section 2 of Section 94, subsection 2 of Section 94 of Motor Vehicles Act 1939. That is, so जो भी government vehicle है, you need to give only a certificate that it is not used for any commercial purpose. Then in that case, insurance is not necessary. In cases where the motor vehicles is used for commercial enterprise, public sector undertaking को इस्तेमाल करने वाला vehicle को shall be insured against a third party risk by the departments in case there is no special fund to meet such expenditure exists. अगर कुछ से special provision for insurance रखा नहीं हो, then general purpose fund से आप इसको इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं, insurance कर सकते हैं. Further delegation of powers, Rule 16. A head of the office may have power to authorize a gazetted officer serving under him to incur contingent and miscellaneous expenditure on his behalf, subject to such restrictions and limitations as may be laid down by him. ऐसा further shift कर सकते हैं some of his powers को, head of the office. The head of office shall, however, continue to be responsible for the correctness, regularity, and propriety of the expenditure incurred by the gazetted officer so authorized. Always, it is a common rule. Whenever you are delegating your authority to some other junior officers, you are not absolved of your responsibility. Suppose Secretary Saab अपना power को head of the department or head of the office को further delegate करते हैं, that doesn't mean that authority, that is a secretary, is out of his responsibility. That is, he is absolved of all his responsibilities. ऐसा नहीं है. Even after delegating his powers to junior authorities, he will be responsible for the correctness of the exercise of powers. Comment. An undersecretary declared as head of office under Rule 14 authorized at his discretion a section officer under him to sign sanctions for incurring petty contingent expenditure for him and over his own designation. एक हेड ऑफ ऑफिस अपना नीचे काम करने वाला कोई सेक्शन ऑफिसर को अपना पावर में कंटिजेंट वाउचर साइन का कंटिजेंट क्लेम्स को सैंक्शन करने का अधिकार दिया है. वो ठीक है, ऐसा कर सकता है. As per Government of India decision under Rule 16 of the DAPR, since such authorization would be made only in respect of matters which the Undersecretary is competent to deal with in his capacity as head of office, it will not amount to a formal delegation of powers vested in the head of office who would himself continue to be responsible for correctness, etc. Hence, the action of the Undersecretary is in order. तो अपना पावर में वो अपना responsibility में कुछ share करते हैं. It's not actually delegation of powers. powers to right of recovery and a waive of recovery. Right of sanction, waiving of recovery दोनों अलग है. Waiving of recovery कब arise होता है? In case overpayment is made to a government servant, that has to be recovered. Basic rule is that any overpayment should be a debt to public. So naturally, that money has to be recovered and then paid to the department, government exchequer. तो उसको वाइव ऑफ करना है, क्या कौन सा कंडीशन में वाइव ऑफ करना है? The department or any other subordinate authority to whom the powers have been delegated can waive the recovery of an amount disallowed by audit or accounts officer or otherwise found to have been overpaid to a government servant subject to the following conditions. अगर किसी government servant को overpayment हो गया, then that can be wiped off only in the following circumstances. If the amount disallowed has been drawn by the government servant under a reasonable belief that he was entitled to receive it. ऐसा एक 500 rupees एक आदमी के पे फिक्सेशन में ज्यादा दे दिए गया है, and that person was drawing coolly for 1 full year. So 500 rupees basic pay means another 50% DA and other items based on basic pay. ये सारा पेमेंट होते रहता है 1 full year, thereafter it is deducted. Then in that case, the department or any other subordinate authority to whom powers have been delegated can waive. If the recovery, पहले तो he was drawing that excess payment जो आ रहा था उसको जिसको payment हो रहा था excess payment, that official was receiving it in good faith, trusting that it is due to him. ऐसा हुआ था, एक मणिपुरी assistant was fixing the pay of a DSP belonging to Manipur. Pay fixation में कुछ गलती हो गया, 100 रुपया, I am talking of 1975, 72 to 75. So 100 rupiah at that time, the total salary for an assistant was somewhere around 400 rupees. 100 rupiah zyada ho gaya, and it was detected after some 9 months or 10 months. The officer who was the head of office, he ordered an inquiry. Telling orally, inquiry तो ऐसा था, overpayment किस लिए हुआ है, then whether it was normal or abnormal, क्या है, इसका inquiry हो रहा था. लेकिन personally blocker junior officers को ये कहा था that head of office gave instructions. Specifically, you find out whether that regional proximity, ethnic affinity, was not the reason for this overpayment. Oh, Manipuri hai, ye bhi Manipuri hai. So, because of that, this favor was done. जानबूझ के क्या था, ये पता करना है. अगर नहीं है तो we will find out some recovery. क्या है? सांबी न मरे वो लाठी भी नहीं टूटे, ऐसा. सांबी मरे लाठी भी नहीं टूटे, ऐसा कुछ कहा था. Recovery भी हो जाए, and this DSP is not punished because he was drawing that amount in good faith. Ultimately, that inquiry revealed that it was not purpose, that is willfully नहीं किया गया था, गलती से हुआ गया. Because that assistant section officer who fixed up, उस समय assistant था, who fixed the pay was very, very, very gentle person. तो उसके बारे में इंक्वायरी होने के बाद ये डिसाइड हुआ है that was not a willful pay fixation resulting in overpayment. As a result, क्या है? It was border area, so it was possible. There some TA claim for tours not actually undertaken by the DSP. Tour TA bill was permitted to be submitted हर एक महीना में some 150 rupees का TA bill. उसको pass करके that amount was asked to be paid back to the government. If the recovery will cause undue hardship or recovery is impossible, ऐसा case में कैसा impossible? Suppose a person was overpaid and the fact was detected by the 25th of December 2023. That person retired. उसका सुपरएनुएशन का डेट 31st December. तो उसके बाद क्या रिकवर करना है, कहाँ रिकवर करना है? गवर्नमेंट क्वार्टर का बात नहीं आता है, बॉर्डर एरिया है. So that fellow retired and there is no possibility of recovery. ऐसा होने से वाइव कर सकते हैं. And another thing, the recovery may cause undue hardship. तब भी इसको वाइव ऑफ कर सकते हैं. Notwithstanding this is only general thing. In such case, that is, the official received the amount in good faith, that it was due to him. That is one reason that overpayment can be wiped off. Number two, recovery will result in a hardship to that official. Or it is impossible to recover that amount. On these cases, recovery can be wiped off. Notwithstanding that, इसके बावजूद, the authorities shall not have powers to wipe off recovery in the following cases. The overpayment was in the nature of pay as defined in FR 921. And the overdrawal was caused by delay in notifying the promotion or reverse. In such case, the overpayment jo hua tha, that was by way of pay and allowances. And the overdrawal was caused by delay in notifying promotion. अभी promotion notify करने में delay था, उसके consequently this has happened. ऐसा case में recovery must be done. Where such an overdrawal was disallowed by audit after 1 year from the date of payment. जिस दिन में वो overpayment हुआ था, उससे 1 साल के बाद audit ने report किया, तब भी that amount has to be recovered. Where the recovery relates to a guested officer. अगर गेस्टेड ऑफिसर बन गया उसके बाद ओवर पेमेंट होता है, हम ये नहीं बोल सकते हैं आई रिसीव्ड इट इन गुड फेथ. आप तो ऐसा एग्जामिनेशन लिखे हैं, आपको पता होना चाहिए, ऐसा बोलते हैं. अमाउंट इन्वॉल्व्ड डज नॉट एक्सीड 2 months पे. अगर 2 महीना से ज्यादा पे, दैट रिकवरी ओवर पेमेंट वाज नॉट मोर देन 2 months सैलरी बेसिक पे, then in that case also that amount has to be recovered. Recovery, Government of India decision. Recovery of overpayment made to government servants should not be waived merely on the ground that the overpayment was made in good faith and the recovery would cause a hardship. The policy of the government would be to enforce recovery in all such cases where it is possible, even if it was drawn in good faith, treating this as a debt owed to the public. Generally, क्या principle होना चाहिए? Any overpayment should be treated as it is a debt to the government. इसलिए the activity that the procedure will be to recover that amount from the person who received excess amount. उनसे recover करके जमा करना चाहिए. An amount due from a person has been written off purely because that person was no longer in service and as such recovery was impossible. Then the amount falling due subsequent to his ceasing from service can be adjusted towards the work. However, a specific clause in write-off sanction should be made. अगर एक fag end में कोई government servant about to retire, उनका केस में वाइव ऑफ कर लिया है, because there is no possibility of recovery because this person has retired. Then in such cases, आपको, suppose you are the dealing officer, then it is your duty to incorporate in that wiving off recovery. उस order में sanction to wive off recovery, उस order में ये stipulation insert करना है that in case there is some arrear payment due or some other payment due hereafter, after retirement, then this recovery will be affected from that arrears. Number 3, supposing an amount due from a person had been written off purely because that person was not in service and as such recovery was not possible. Suppose in another case, this person is retired and recovery not possible. ऐसा स्थिति में you have written off that amount. लेकिन उसका री-एम्प्लॉयमेंट मिल गया आफ्टर ए गैप ऑफ अनदर 6 months, री-एम्प्लॉयमेंट मिल गया. So he will start receiving salary. That time that amount should be paid, recovered. So to safeguard the interest of the government, you have to fag end of service. किसी का recovery case आने से उसको sanction करने के समय you have to write in case after retirement this person receives money from the government either by way of re-employment or otherwise. This money will be recovered from that. ऐसा करके एक stipulation उसमें डाल देना चाहिए so that in case re-employment happens, then from the salary this amount can be recovered. Conditions for write-off of government money. This we have already seen in bits and pieces. Write-off sanction. A thorough investigation into the laws should always precede the write-off proposal. Write-off proposal भेजने से पहले एक thorough inquiry, investigation is essential. All efforts should be made to recover the amount from primary offender and subsidiary offenders. ऐसा कुछ loss to the government is caused by or some official is responsible for the loss caused to the government. He may be primary offender and there may be supervisory officers, there may be officers who might have checked the bill in which that overpayment or loss has caused. ऐसा कोई भी additional subsidiary offender कोई भी है पोस्टल डिपार्टमेंट में ये बहुत ही prevalent है. Suppose a insured parcel is missing or registered parcel is missing, that recovery, that value of that parcel will be recovered from the booking clerk. Thereafter, all those in the hierarchy, सबसे contributory negligence ऐसा करके सबसे recovery किया जाएगा. If the loss is huge, the recovery from primary subsidiary offender is not possible. The officials who have contributed through their negligence towards the loss should be identified and recovery resorted to. अगर primary offender, subsidiary offender से recovery पूरा नहीं हो पाता है, then in that case you will have to find out who are all in the chain responsible for this loss. तो उनसे भी according to their salary status, that amount has to be part of the amount should be recovered from them. If the case has been taken to court, अगर किसी कारण the loss caused to the government, it goes to the court. In that case, the court should be asked, अपना वकील से कोर्ट से ये बोलवाना है, to impose fine and to grant that amount of fine to the department. ऐसा loss caused by government through negligence of a particular officials is detected by the court of law, then the court of law should be advised to impose fine. A heavy fine may be imposed on this official who was negligent, and that money should be credited to the government exchequer. The write-off should always be supported by audit or audit officer's report. हमेशा overpayment detect होता है audit report से. If the fraud has revealed any lacuna in the rule or procedure, the amendment should be taken up with the finance ministry. Suppose the loss has been caused due to some deficiency in the rules and regulations, then that should be taken up with the Ministry of Finance to plug the loopholes. The competent authority should send a quarterly report to the financial advisor indicating the nature of fraud, amount, reasons for loss, modus operandi, action taken to recover the loss, and the amount to be written off. The financial advisor will verify these facts before audit report is issued. ये सारा डिटेल एक रिपोर्ट द्वारा, क्वार्टरली रिपोर्ट द्वारा वो भेजना चाहिए. Expenditure on schemes or projects approved by the competent authority or the Niti Aayog. Without prejudice to the provisions in Rule 13, a department may sanction expenditure on any scheme or project. The total outlay of which, suppose department द्वारा sanction किया हुआ एक project है, उसका value है 1.5 crore. Then if the scheme has been approved by the minister, so total outlay 1.5 crore तक है, इसका department is empowered to sanction that amount. In such cases, further concurrence of Ministry of Finance not required. Is not required for sanctioning expenditure on various constituent schemes. एक total project का amount value 1.5 crore का है, उसको bits and pieces में whenever requirement of expenditure comes, उसमें sanction, financial sanction issue होता है. That ऐसा bits and pieces में sanction करने के समय, that amount, total amount of the sanctions, even if it exceeds 1.5 crores, that is the project cost originally approved by the finance ministry. Even in that case, that you need not take it up with the Ministry of Finance. Provided further, the approval of finance ministry is not required to sanction excess expenditure over the original estimate of sanctioned scheme up to 10% or 5 crores, whichever is less in the case of plan scheme, and 10% or rupees 3 crores, whichever is less in the case of non-plan scheme. These are all now irrelevant. Plan scheme, non-plan scheme. Notwithstanding anything in sub-rule 1, but subject to provisions of CPWD code and any other order of the president on the subject, the Department of Transport may sanction any expenditure on the maintenance of national highways and other roads which are under administrative charge. Suppose national highway को maintain करने के लिए या खर्च होता है, that expenditure, irrespective of the amount, that expenditure can be sanctioned by Department of Transport. An order of appropriation or reappropriation of funds shall operate as sanction in sanction to incur expenditure on minor works, and it shall not be necessary to issue any sanction order to incur expenditure in such cases. Financial sanction for appropriation or reappropriation over एक दफा sanction हो गया, then further sanction is not necessary. Grants and loans. Departments, administrators shall have full powers to sanction grant in aid, including scholarship and loans, provided that such grants in aid, including scholarships or loans, are in accordance with the rules and principles prescribed with the previous consent of the finance ministry. अगर कुछ scheme जिसके लिए the approval is there by the finance ministry, then grant in aid के लिए separate sanction का जरूरत नहीं है. Head of the department can sanction. The rate of interest on loan and the period of payment are fixed with the previous consent of Ministry of Finance, unless these details are there in other existing order of MOF. अगर पहले से ही interest वगैरह का loan extend करते हैं, उसका interest के बारे में पहले original order में MOF का अगर है, then there is no need for further orders. Indents, contracts and purchases. Subject to the provisions of DFPR, GFR, governing procurement of stores or services, a department has full powers to sanction expenditure for purchases and execution of contracts. Department का full power दिया हुआ है. The powers under this rule shall be exercised up to rupees 20 crore for open and limited tender contracts, up to rupees 5 crore for single tender or proprietary contracts and up to rupees 2 crores for contracts for technical collaboration and consultancy services by the Secretary of the Department concerned. I said delegation of power is given. Sale etc. of public building. एक दफा public building बन गया है, उसको सेल करना मांगता है, because it is the department which ordered for the building of that particular building doesn't want that building. You should not sell it away immediately. You should try to find out whether it is required for use of some other department. अगर कुछ भी नहीं है, नहीं चाहिए, then किसी को भी नहीं चाहिए, then the question of sale comes. अगर कभी कभी ऐसा भी होता है, कोई भी डिपार्टमेंट वो बिल्डिंग नहीं लेना चाहता है, that can be destroyed. The department and administrators have full powers to sanction sale or dismantlement of public buildings other than a purely temporary structure. इसका मतलब 2 साल तक रह सकता है वो बिल्डिंग, is expected to live only for 2 more years. That is purely temporary structure, provided these powers are exercised with the concurrence of financial advisors. Conditions. No public building shall be sold or dismantled unless it has been previously ascertained that it is not required by any other department. पहले सबसे पता करना है whether this building is required by any other department. Then only it can be sold or dismantled. No public building shall be demolished unless it is structurally in a dangerous condition or is beyond economic repairs and has been certified as such by appropriate technical authority, or it is necessary to vacate the site for constructing a more important. अगर कोई building को destroy करना है, so that is possible only when it is in dangerous, precarious condition, or it is certified by the competent authority that it is beyond reasonable repairs. तो उसे रिपेयर करने के कॉस्ट नया कंस्ट्रक्शन से ज्यादा है, ऐसा करके सर्टिफिकेट मिलने पर ये कर सकते हैं, डिस्ट्रॉय कर सकते हैं. वो दैट शुड बी सर्टिफाइड बाय टेक्निकली क्वालिफाइड अथॉरिटी. और इन सम अदर केस वेयर नया बिल्डिंग एक बनाना है उसी जगह पर, then in that case it can be destroyed. A public building, the sale or dismantlement of which is sanctioned in exercise of powers conferred by this rule shall be disposed of by public auction through the CPWD or the local PWD in case where CPWD does not function. That is, आपको ये एक सैंक्शन हो गया प्रॉपर अथॉरिटी से, सैंक्शन हो गया द फॉर डिस्ट्रक्शन ऑफ दिस, तो डिस्ट्रॉय करना है, डिस्पोज ऑफ करना है, दैट इज पॉसिबल ओनली थ्रू द CPWD. अगर कोई जगह, जैसे इन माई टाइम देयर वाज नो CPWD इन लद्दाख, सो thereafter we used to request the PWD. CPWD का नहीं है तो PWD द्वारा डिस्पोज करना है. Explanation. A purely temporary structure means a structure the life of which is not more than 2 years. Note, the power can be exercised only if the administrative control of the building vests with the department. अगर मैं किसी बिल्डिंग को बेचना चाहता हूँ, तमाशा है, ये इसका जरूरत नहीं है. अगर मैं एक बिल्डिंग को बेचना चाहता हूँ पर्सनली, say a person wants to sell a property, I should own it. Then only I can sell. यही तो. Department has full powers to sanction sale or dismantlement of purely temporary. 2 साल तक रहने लायक. The life of a particular structure is only 2 years, not more than that. In such cases, full powers to get it demolished. That is with the department. Ministry of External Affairs has the powers to sanction sale or dismantlement of buildings abroad, the book value of which does not exceed 1 crore. तो बाहर, इंडिया से बाहर कोई बिल्डिंग गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया का है, that has to be that has been disposed of, then in that case, MEA is the authority if the value of that property is less than 1 crore. Now, take out notes on TA, traveling allowance. इसके बीच में एक announcement है. One announcement, that is the Saturday, not coming Saturday, next Saturday, 12th, Vijayadashmi day, from 10 to 1, there will be a test. 10 to 1, the noting, drafting, précis writing, full 3-hour test. So you should be prepared for the test. जो भी attend करेंगे, so that will be beneficial to them. 3 घंटे में एक पेपर, exactly UPSC type paper. Whether we are able to complete that paper within 3 hours. ये check करने के लिए, आपको अपने आप को check करने के लिए, that's an opportunity. That is of 12th of October. Okay. Now, traveling allowance. Notes है. Basic principle. Traveling allowance is a compensatory allowance granted to cover expenses of a government servant for traveling in public interest. Public interest में सरकारी काम में आपको कहीं भेजा जाता है, उसमें additional खर्च तो होता ही है. You are going from Chennai to Delhi for a period of 10 days on official duty. उधर जाने से you will have to spend money on accommodation, local North Block से कहीं कहीं ऑफिस है गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया का, वो इधर से उधर से इधर जाना पड़ेगा. कभी ट्रेनिंग स्कूल गाजियाबाद में जाना पड़ेगा. All this for everything you may require money. You may have to spend money. So that for travel up to Delhi, for daily खाना पीने का, रहने का वो पैसा, all these things, for this you require money. That is traveling allowance. Traveling allowance is a compensatory allowance granted to cover the expenses of a government servant for traveling in public interest. The compensatory allowance should be so fixed that the allowance on the whole is not a source of profit. That is a basic rule. कोई भी compensatory allowance जो है, that should not result in profiting the government servant. It should be sufficient to meet the expenditure, that's all. The right of the government servant for TA claim, right of the government servant for TA claim is forfeited if claim for the same is not preferred within 60 days from the date on which it becomes due. कब ड्यू होता है ये? एक आदमी 10 दिन का ट्रांसफर, मीरठ से दिल्ली को एक आदमी को टूर में भेजा जाता है. सो मीरठ इज हिज हेडक्वार्टर्स. मीरठ से दिल्ली को आता है जाता है. सो 10 days टूर में रहने के बाद वो मीरठ ऑफिस में रिपोर्ट करता है. Then that from that day onwards 60 days में बिल सबमिट करना है. Otherwise he will forego that claim. कोई एक्सेप्शन नहीं. Pay for the purpose of TADA, traveling allowance, daily allowance. TADA refers to basic pay drawn in the pay level in the pay matrix and does not include non-practicing allowance or any other type of pay like special pay, etc. इसका मतलब क्या है? Non-practicing allowance should be treated as basic pay for all purpose, including pension. But wherever specifically excluded, that will not be treated as pay. This is one such occasion. TA purpose के लिए Non-practicing allowance will not be treated as basic pay. Permanent traveling allowance, PTA. Permanent traveling allowance is a fixed amount drawn all the year round, whether an official travels or not. एक दफा fix कर लिया, permanent traveling allowance will be paid throughout the year, whether एक सब इंस्पेक्टर है, उसको permanent traveling allowance sanction हुआ है, then that person, whether he travels or not, it will be drawn along with the pay bill. That is PTA. This is granted to those government servants whose duties involve extensive travel, and it is to cover the cost of journeys within the sphere of duties. ऐसा within the sphere of duties, roughly 6 municipal limits or 16 kilometers दफ्तर से, तो ऐसा frequently travel करना पड़ता है, but ऐसा केस में this PTA sanction किया जाता है. For his journeys beyond this sphere, अगर उससे बाहर लंबा जर्नी करना पड़ता है, then he may draw normal traveling allowance. उस समय suppose he is getting permanent traveling allowance for local journeys, लेकिन एक दफा 50 kilometers जाना पड़ता है, then he will draw a TA. That in addition to this TA, I mean permanent traveling allowance, that is drawn along with pay, this tour for a longer distance, that TA he can claim. Permanent traveling allowance is not drawn during leave, temporary transfer and joining time. ये तीनों टाइम पर permanent traveling allowance नहीं ड्रॉ किया जाता है. It cannot also be drawn when any other kinds of TA is drawn unless specifically authorized. कुछ और TA draw किया जाता है, then this permanent TA will not be drawn. उतना amount वो रोक दिया जाएगा. Then if a specific order is there allowing him to draw PTA as well as any traveling allowance, any other traveling allowance, then that order will be applicable. If a government servant holds 2 or more posts, that combination of appointment, so 2 posts, on both the posts PTA is there, then in such case which PTA he has to receive, that has to be mentioned. Then conveyance allowance, it is also drawn throughout the period for which it is sanctioned. Normally conveyance allowance is sanctioned for a total period of 2 years at a time. So उस 2 साल में वो उसको पे बिल के साथ ये ड्रॉ किया जाएगा. The method is different. Conveyance allowance is granted to a government whose duties require extensive traveling within a short distance, up to a radius of 8 kilometers from his duty point, from his headquarters, up to from his headquarters, rendering him not eligible for daily allowance. 8 किलोमीटर का अंदर आप कितना भी घूमते रहिए, आपको DA कितना भी ट्रिप लगाइए, 7 किलो, सपोज आरके पुरम में उसका दफ्तर है, नॉर्थ ब्लॉक में बार बार जाना पड़ता है. So from RK Puram to North Block, it is less than 8 kilometers. So बार बार कितना भी जब बार जाए उसको TA कुछ नहीं मिलना है. So in such cases उसको 2 साल के लिए लॉग बुक एवरेज कितना, 1 महीना में एवरेज कितना किलोमीटर बढ़ता है, 200 किलोमीटर है, then this is granted. Unlike the permanent traveling allowance, these may be drawn in addition to the other kinds of traveling allowance. Minimum required travel is 200 kilometers average per month. Journeys on foot or on bicycle do not qualify for conveyance allowance. No conveyance allowance is admissible during leave, joining time, temporary transfer. Temporary transfer means 180 days के अंदर वो वापस headquarters में आ जाएगा. That is temporary transfer. When the government servant is away on tour or temporary transfer duty for 15 days or more, that is no conveyance allowance is drawn. Conveyance allowance is determined for specific post on the basis of controlled traveling by the sanctioning authority. ऐसा है, सब इंस्पेक्टर पोस्ट के लिए कन्वेयंस अलाउंस दिया जाता है, लेकिन देयर आर 500 सब इंस्पेक्टर पोस्ट है इन ए डिपार्टमेंट and there are only 200 posts for which conveyance allowance is there, not all. In that case, these which are all the posts to which conveyance allowance is attached. तो जो भी उस पोस्ट में पोस्ट किया जाएगा उनको conveyance allowance मिलेगा, not to all the SIs. Conveyance allowance is granted for a period of 2 years at a time. Once the conveyance allowance is fixed, the log book need not be maintained unless instructed to do so. कैसा average 200 kilometers होना चाहिए, ये कैसा होगा? You are asked to maintain a log book. तो every day क्या कितना किलोमीटर चलना पड़ा, ये ऐसा करके log book बनाया जाता है and average निकाला जाता है. On the basis of average, if it is more than 200 kilometers per month, then conveyance allowance is sanctioned. Such allowance, once sanctioned, it is valid for 2 years. Then once it is average निकाल दिया गया है, that is average is found out, then conveyance allowance is sanctioned and logbook need not be maintained. But some officers, उनको ऐसा पता चलता है, this fellow has created a logbook. He has not actually taken the facts. Factually मैं इतना किलोमीटर इस दिन में गया, ऐसा नहीं लिखा, ये बनाया गया है. So he may ask this particular official to continue maintaining logbook, ऐसा भी बोल सकता है. क्या क्या है रेट? एवरेज मंथली ट्रैवल कितना है on official duty? 201 to 300 kilometers. Then for journey own motor car 1680. ऐसा एक टेबल दिया हुआ है. That rate now it has been increased by 25% because DA rate 50% हो गया है. So this allowance would have increased. वो separate order आया है कि नहीं पता नहीं. Conveyance allowance for motor car as shown above is not admissible to persons whose pay is less than 2,800 per month in the pre-revised 4th pay commission का amount अभी भी रखा हुआ है. अगर 4th pay commission में this 2,800 is less than 2,800, the motor car के लिए separate rate जो है that will not be entitled. Conveyance allowance for motor car is given subject to the condition that the officer owns and maintains a motor car in good condition, good running condition, and uses it for official. क्या कहते हैं ये? इन केस मोटर कार रेट में मिलता है 550 मिलने की जगह 1700 मिलता है. So that रेट मिलना है, then गाड़ी एक motor vehicle 4-wheeler must be there in his name and he should be using it. And more than 15 days हो गए शेड पर नहीं रहना है. That is, it should not be under repair for more than 15 days. ऐसा नहीं है तो वो रेट नहीं मिलेगा. Conveyance allowance can't be drawn if not maintained for more than that. If the vehicle is not maintained for more than 15 days, then the conveyance allowance will be stopped and maintained remains out of order. अगर out of order 15 दिन से ज्यादा पीरियड के लिए वो out of order है, then the conveyance allowance नहीं मिलेगा. Officials who are drawing conveyance allowance are not entitled to any other TA for journeys up to the radius of 16 kilometers, and the TA for the journey beyond 60 kilometers is under 15. ये जिसको conveyance allowance मिलता है for journeys up to 16 kilometers, नहीं मिलता है TADA. Then beyond 16 kilometers, these following ways. If the journey is performed otherwise than in his own conveyance, DA and or mileage allowance. Mileage allowance का मतलब वो ट्रैवल के लिए जो पैसा खर्च किया जाता है, दैट इज बस में जाएं बस फेयर, टैक्सी में जाएं टैक्सी फेयर, रेल में ट्रेन में जाएं ट्रेन फेयर, दैट इज माइलेज अलाउंस. DA and mileage allowance as admissible under the rule may be drawn in full. If the journey is by road in his own conveyance, either in combination with rail, steamer, air journey or otherwise, the officer may, at his option, forego his, agar conveyance चाहते हैं, then you have to, you can have, but TA will not be there. But in case you don't want it, you don't mind losing conveyance allowance, but you want to claim the full DA, then in that case, 1/30th of conveyance allowance he has to forego. Suppose he is on tour for 10 days, then 1/30th of conveyance allowance he will lose per day. Medical officers agar higher rate of conveyance allowance chahiye to they must maintain motor car. Initial fixation. Conveyance allowance will be determined for specific post on the basis of controlled traveling by the sanctioning authority. The official controlled traveling means that is monitored traveling, that is logbook maintain करके उसमें average निकाल कर then conveyance allowance sanction होगा. The official concerned is required to maintain a logbook in the prescribed form showing the particulars of official journeys for a minimum period of 3 months. 3 महीना के लिए ये logbook maintain करना जरूरी है. उसमें average निकालने के बाद उसको discontinue कर सकते हैं. Sanctioning authority shall scrutinize the logbook, satisfy himself and fix the conveyance allowance. Where there are a number of posts in the same category, the post for which the CA is intended should be clearly identified in the sanction, and the rate for such post should also be stated. Agar originally conveyance allowance kis post ko hai, that has to be identified, and what is the rate of conveyance allowance admissible, the OB mention karna hai. Once conveyance allowance is sanctioned, एक दफा conveyance allowance particular official को sanction कर दिया तो then in that case that official may be asked not to maintain the conveyance allowance logbook. Once the CA is sanctioned, the logbook need not be maintained unless the controlling officer so decides. Conveyance allowance is granted for a period not less than, so is granted for a period not exceeding 2 years at a time, and its continuance shall be reviewed at the end of each such period. Conveyance allowance एक दफा ट्रांसफर सैंक्शन कर दिया तो 2 साल के लिए वो चालू है. Then उसके बाद वो further sanction तो required है on the basis of fresh assessment. The controlling officer needs to record a certificate to the effect that there has been no change in the nature of duties or the extent of touring in the pay bills of the employee is concerned for January, April, July, October. इसका मतलब क्या है? पे बिल में कन्वेयंस अलाउंस पे के साथ ड्रा होता है. सो इन चारों महीने में, that is January, April, July, October में एक सर्टिफिकेट ड्राइंग ऑफिसर हैज टू attach a certificate that these people are performing the same duties for which conveyance allowance has been sanctioned. When the requirement of maintaining logbook is waived, in the case of CGHS doctors, they are sanctioned normal. CGHS doctor को अगर आगे से maintain logbook maintain नहीं करते हैं, then in that case they will get only ordinary CA conveyance allowance. If he wishes to have higher rates, he will be required to maintain logbook. अगर उस ये enhanced rate of conveyance allowance उनको चाहिए, then they will have to maintain logbook. Transport allowance. From 1/7/2017, the central government servants are entitled to transport allowance at the following rates to compensate the cost incurred on account of commuting between residence and the place of duty. घर से दफ्तर आकर दफ्तर से घर पहुंचने का अलाउंस जो मिलता है वो ट्रांसपोर्ट अलाउंस है. तो उसमें लेवल 9 एंड अबव तो रेट दिया हुआ है. सिटीज में 7,200 plus DA, then other places 3,600 plus DA, like that. For all levels it is given. Employees drawing pay of 24,200 and above, pay levels 1 and 2 of pay matrix shall be eligible for grant of transport allowance at 3,600 plus a DA thereon. It's a specific rate for the pay conditions. Eligible also to those government servants residing within 1 kilometer of place of work. पहले ऐसा था, फर्स्ट टाइम कन्वेंस अलाउंस सैंक्शन करने के समय there should be at least 1 kilometer distance from the residence to office. अभी नहीं है, हटा दिया गया है. Even if the office is office कम residence, वो compound का अंदर ही क्वार्टर है, तब भी कन्वेंस अलाउंस मिलेगा. Not paid to those provided with office transport. अगर office transport इस्तेमाल करते हैं तो on a regular basis, it is one day office transport में आ गया, फर्क नहीं पड़ता है. But regularly, if you are using office transport, then in that case, क्या है, transport allowance नहीं मिलेगा. Not paid to the, then not eligible while on deputation abroad. Deputation में जाने से नहीं मिलेगा. If staff car facility already available is surrendered or withdrawn, transport allowance is payable from that date. ऐसा है. ट्रांसपोर्ट स्टाफ कार यूज करते हैं कुछ ऑफिसर्स, उनको पैसा चाहिए, तो देवर अवेलिंग स्टाफ कार, उसको लिखित रूप से दे देते हैं, ये मेरे को फर्स्ट ऑफ अक्टूबर से मेरे को ये चाहिए, आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू अवेल दिस स्टाफ कार. In that case, from then onwards, he will be entitled to receive transport allowance. लेकिन एक बार ऐसा एक ऑप्शन बदल दिया, मेरे को स्टाफ कार नहीं चाहिए, ओनली आई वांट ट्रांसपोर्ट अलाउंस, ऐसा एक बार एक्सरसाइज किया तो फिर जब तक उस दफ्तर में काम करेंगे, यू कैन नॉट चेंज इट. Blind and orthopedically handicapped government servants who are eligible for drawal of conveyance allowance are entitled to transport allowance at double the rate. Orthopedically ये disabled purpose, disabled persons को पहले से ही एक allowance, conveyance allowance मिलता रहा है, उन ऐसा लोगों को double the conveyance मिलेगा. It is also admissible to hearing impaired employees 60 decibel say. If the loss of 60 decibels or more, ऐसा hearing impaired है, वो सुनाई नहीं देता है, then in that case, the conveyance allowance will be entitled. The better here, subject to recommendation of head of, that is this extra disability वाला conveyance allowance, इनको भी मिलता है. hearing को इनका प्रॉब्लम है, तो उनको भी ये मिलता है. If a government servant is absent on leave or tour for a full calendar month, suppose एक आदमी छुट्टी पर जाता है एक full calendar month, that is 1st of November to 30th of November, then they are not entitled to draw transport allowance for that month. इसलिए लोग क्या करते हैं, they will apply for leave from 2nd of November to or 15th of November to 15th of December. In that case, partly this month, partly that month. So both दोनों month के लिए conveyance allowance मिलेगा. Full calendar month कहीं इस्तेमाल करने से टूर में जाते हैं या लीव में जाते हैं, then you are not entitled for conveyance allowance for that month. Officers drawing in level 14 and above in the pay matrix who are entitled to use official car can opt for existing facility or to draw transport allowance at 15,700 per. वो अगर स्टाफ कार फैसिलिटी तो उनको हाई लेवल 14 एंड अबव को, सपोज दे डोंट वांट, मेरे को आज से नहीं चाहिए बिकॉज द हेफ्टी अमाउंट इज अवेलेबल इन द फॉर्म ऑफ ट्रांसपोर्ट अलाउंस. So 15,750 per month plus DA thereon. So another 50% मतलब 7,025, 23,000 rupees एक महीना में मिलेगा. So if they don't want in that, but such an officer will not be allowed to change his option during the remaining period of his current arrangement. Suppose ऐसा कोई कार छोड़कर पैसा मांगता है, then he cannot once again go back to car. In case DA 50% से ज्यादा होने से कन्वेंस अलाउंस का रेट में 25% बढ़ा होगा. नॉट एडमिसिबल ड्यूरिंग सस्पेंशन. सस्पेंशन में इनको ड्यूटी करना नहीं पड़ता है. ड्यूटी नहीं करने से ट्रैवल में एक्सपेंडिचर नहीं होता है. देयर इज नो क्वेश्चन ऑफ claiming the transport allowance. The position holds good even after the period of suspension. एक आदमी सस्पेंशन में है, so the suspension period में क्या होगा, दफ्तर नहीं आना है, दफ्तर नहीं आने से आने जाने का खर्च देने का ये नहीं होता है. Not admissible during the period of suspension period को बाद में ड्यूटी माना गया है, तब भी you will not get arrears of conveyance allowance. Transport allowance. Not admissible during the period of deputation abroad. बाहर आप डेप्यूटेशन में चले जाते हैं, उस पीरियड में भी कन्वेंस अलाउंस नहीं मिलता है. माइलेज अलाउंस. माइलेज अलाउंस क्या होता है? That is to meet the travel expenses. Suppose I am coming on tour from Delhi to Mumbai, then that airfare or train fare, etc., the travel expenses. Mileage allowance is a form of traveling allowance which is calculated on the distance traveled and given to meet the cost of particular journey. टूर में जाने से there are three components. One, आप टूरिंग स्टेशन को अपना हेडक्वार्टर्स, सपोज इट इज दिल्ली टू अमृतसर, अपना हेडक्वार्टर्स दिल्ली टू अमृतसर जाने के लिए टूर में जाते हैं. देयर आर थ्री रिक्वायरमेंट्स. वन, टू गो एयरफेयर और ट्रेन फेयर और बस फेयर. ये दैट इज वन. फॉर कम्यूटिंग, फॉर ट्रैवलिंग, दैट ट्रैवल एक्सपेंसेस, दैट इज माइलेज अलाउंस. उधर जाने के बाद बैग कहीं जाकर ये जगह डालना है, यू हैव टू स्टे. तो उधर अराइव करने के बाद यू विल हैव टू स्टे समवेयर, दैट इज अकोमोडेशन के लिए. नंबर टू, दैट्स फर्स्ट कंपोनेंट इज माइलेज अलाउंस, दैट इज ट्रांसपोर्ट. द नेक्स्ट कंपोनेंट इज बोर्डिंग, लॉजिंग. एक जगह ठहरना है, उसके लिए लॉजिंग. देन तीसरा कंपाउंड है लॉजिंग, बोर्डिंग, तो खाने का है. So these are the three components when you are sent on official duty to some other place. Then you require money for these three purposes. One for traveling up to that place. For the next one, this it's staying, and then the other one, eating, food. Mileage allowance. Mileage allowance is a form of traveling allowance which is calculated on the distance traveled and given to meet the cost of particular journey. एक जगह से दूसरा जगह को भेजा जाने से ट्रैवल करने का खर्च इसमें आता है. It is granted on the principle of shortest particular route, a practicable route. तो दो तीन रूट हो सकता है. एक शॉर्टेस्ट रूट कौन सा है वो माना जाएगा, देन उसका फेयर दिया जाएगा. इफ देयर आर टू और मोर इक्वली शॉर्ट रूट्स, अगर दो रूट इक्वली शॉर्ट रूट है, बाय द चीपेस्ट सच रूट. अगर दो रूट या तीन रूट ऐसे शॉर्ट रूट है, उसमें चीपेस्ट कौन सा है, तो उसमें उसको माना जाएगा. When there are alternative railway routes without much difference in time or cost, mileage may be calculated on the route actually used, even though it is slightly more. So, for instance, Delhi to Kanyakumari, you can go through Chennai to Kanyakumari. Then you can go through Konkan Railway through Trivandrum. Trivandrum जाके कन्याकुमारी पहुंच सकते हैं. So दोनों if you measure, if you go by distance, दोनों बराबर का है. But one route is slightly more in distance. In that case, which one is cheaper? वो देखना है. अगर दोनों चीपर दैट इज 1-2 रुपया का फर्क है तो वो दोनों बराबर का माना जाना है. ले उस स्थिति में सपोज द पर्सन हु हैज गॉन ऑन टूर हैज chosen to use the route on which a little more money is spent. लेकिन कैसे डिसाइड करना है इसको, कौन सा, whether he is entitled for that amount. If two routes are the same price, in that case fare is almost the same. थोड़ा सा फर्क हो सकता है, जिसमें थोड़ा सा ज्यादा है उस रूट को इस्तेमाल किया है. Then what should be the criteria for passing the bill? That is, even if the amount is slightly more, that can be given because he has actually used it. दो रूट डिस्टेंस थोड़ा फर्क है, then the shortest route. दो रूट distance almost the same, but पैसा में थोड़ा सा फर्क है. The route which he has used, actually used, उसको देना चाहिए. When road mileage is claimed for journey performed by car between places connected by rail, the competent authority should use his discretion on the basis of whether any public interest was served. Delhi to Chandigarh, you can go by train also. Delhi to Amritsar, you can go by train. It is connected by rail. Suppose it is, even if it is connected by rail, the officer used a road route. Then in that case, the authority who is competent, he is called a controlling officer. The controlling officer has to see whether any public interest has been served, public purpose. Public interest has been served. Suppose in between, अगर दिल्ली टू अमृतसर जाने से बीच में चंडीगढ़ में एक इंस्पेक्शन का काम करके उधर गया है, so in that case you can allow road rail में, that is, instead of going by rail, if that person chose to travel by road, then also the public interest क्या है, that is ऑफिस का ड्यूटी भी क्या है बीच में, ऐसा एक है, then that can be allowed. Traveling by longer route is not admissible. मेरे को रिजर्वेशन नहीं मिला है लोअर क्लास में. सपोज आई एम एंटाइटल्ड फॉर AC 2 टायर, बट रिजर्वेशन नहीं मिला है. So instead of 2 tier, I went for AC first class. Then that is not permissible. Reservation for the eligible class nahi mila hai to you should go by lower class, not by higher class. That is the rule. Okay, we'll see in the next class tomorrow. Good night. Bye. We'll make some arrangement. Let us see. Avinash is asking, would it be possible to postpone the test at least to the next day, October 13th? Consider this request only if it is acceptable. That we'll consider. We'll consider. Okay. Good night.